Good morning and welcome to our Google Hangout today, where we are going to be talking about assistance and the what to expect the first 90 days. So who we have here today with us is, I'd like to make the introductions. First of all, I'm Jolene Mcdonough of System Success, and I work with top producing companies and assistants and entrepreneurs across the country in their hiring processes and also in their back office systems and organization. But today we are going to be really keying in on the hiring process in the first 90 days. So who's on the call with us today is Scott Solari, the CMO or Chief Marketing Officer and everything else at Viral Marketing. Could not do this without Scott. You know, we're not back office people, we're not marketing people. So we need people like Scott and Frank out there to help us do this particular platform to get information out. So thank you, Scott, for being with us. He's going to be doing the Q&As. He said he's promised to pepper us with questions because Absolutely. He hears this all the time.
Yeah. Well, also, thanks for having me. I'm glad to help you, Jolene. Glad to be here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And my special guest, Kathleen Metcalf from Bullseye Hiring. Really excited to be working with her. Kathleen is a consulting and hiring and search firm, also keying in on the real estate industry. And she and I have been collaborating and having great conversations. And you know, Kathleen and I have the same kind of passion for the real estate people and hiring and how to retain great people. So welcome, Kathleen.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I'm excited. All right, Scott, so I'm going to turn this over to you.
Okay.
Before I do that, what we really would like to share with people and have people take away from this is what are the key areas to watch for in the first 90 days of after you've hired that great person. You've gone through the whole process of, you know, doing the interviews or having somebody do the interviews, and you've made that gut choice and said, okay, based on the skills, this is the person that I want on my team. Yep. Now they're sitting in front of you. Now what? Okay, how do you retain this person, and how do you effectively get them going, and what to watch for? So that's what we'd like you to take away, at least to have some sort of confidence as you go about that process. All right, take it away, Scott.
Yeah, so making the assumption that you've hired this person and that you vetted them, right, and you think they're going to be good for the position, you know, even in the first week, I mean, where do you even start? What are you looking for? How's that system or training even start?
Well, the first thing, even before that happens, before they walk in the door, we're going to assume that you have a plan. That's the key piece. One of the key pieces is having a plan, having milestones, identifying what you're going to have that person start with, and what your expectations are the first week, the first 30 days, the first 60 and 90 days. You know, identify the programs that you're going to get them started off on. You know, they're coming in here, and Kathleen can expand on this, but they're coming into your office, and they will not be able to read your mind and know all the systems and all the processes and how you work. So they're walking in the office cold. They have the basic skill set that you need to operate your business, but you've got to give them direction, and you've got to communicate with them. Have a plan, have it in place for them so that they know what to expect too.
So, and moving over to Kathleen, how important is it when they come in that first day, having tasks for that day and having a system already ready for them to start following day 1, day 2, day 3, so that training's in place and they feel comfortable being there then?
Right. It is important. The first day, the first week, the first 30 days really does set the pace for why and how they're going to make that transition. So having a list of priorities, helping them understand how they'll spend their time, what kind of process are they supposed to follow, and the communication that you're expecting of them makes a big difference in how effective they can feel and how effective they will be for you. When you bring someone in who is experienced in that industry, so in the real estate industry, maybe they've worked in another office or they have been in that exact job but in a different office with a different agent, they still have to make that transition to know how you do business. And what I find is that the more skilled and the more experienced they are, the more difficult the first 30 days is, because they're accustomed to being the go-to person. They're accustomed to being the person that has all the answers, that's in charge, and now they're the new kid on the block, and it's very uncomfortable. So we really want to, in the first 30 days, in the first day, in the first week, give them something to follow so that they can begin to build confidence in every task that you ask them to do, which will then, lead to better efficiency over time. But the first week, the first day, the first month, it really is about setting that precedent.
And Scott, one of the things too is this is a different personality style. Real estate agents, entrepreneurs, they are generally the let's throw it against the wall and see if this works, or the let's try it and ask permission later. This is not the personality style of the person you just hired that can be your support. Mm-hmm. So it's really important that you can't think, well, why didn't they just take it on? This is going to be the cautious person, the steady person behind the scenes that is going to methodically look and see what that path is. Different personality style, and if you're aware of that, you're going to see that this is a stressful situation for a new person coming into a new job. So all of those personality traits of the back office person, the quiet, the analytical, the amiable person, that's all going to be enhanced because they're under the stress of a new job. Mm-hmm. So they're not going to act like an agent, or they're not going to act like an entrepreneur.
Got it. So ladies, let's talk details, because I know whenever I'm watching one of these, I want to know specifics. And if I'm an agent on this watching, I want to know specifics. So tell me some specifics in those first days or that first week or couple weeks of things that the employer should be doing with the new employee.
Well, I think, so the first thing I would say is, how are you going to communicate? Do you have regularly set up meetings? Do you have stand-up meetings every single day after they're done prospecting or whatever? The communication is key. How that's going to start the process. Have a list of items. This is what I need to know whenever we communicate. Has this been done? Or have a list, almost like an agenda of what needs to be done. Also, the scheduling. What do you expect their schedule to be? What are the first, maybe the top 3 things and software programs that you want them to master over the first 1 or 2 weeks? That's what I would say, to at least give them the start on the path. Like, here's the road, how we're going to communicate, and this is what I want you to get comfortable with, and go from there. Kathleen, what do you think?
Yeah, I would agree. It really gets down to how they're going to spend their time and then showing them those tasks. So when I talk to agents, I let them know you have to show them what you want. You have to be the leader in that so that they know these are your standards, this is your style. I also tell agents that it's really helpful if the assistant can hear you on the phone, if they hear the way you handle things, they hear the way you interact with people, because then it's easier for that person to then be your ambassador, because they are picking up on all the innuendos of how you communicate with clients, with vendors. Are you hard where you say, I need this at 2 o'clock, or are you more relaxed about, I'll pick it up on my way home, because there's lots of ways to handle issues. But some sort of written agenda and some sort of regular check-in time is really helpful in the beginning, so that the assistant knows, first thing in the morning, I have a to-do list, at least given to me. Then I know that at 11:30 I can ask questions, because until then the agent is not really available, they're on the phone. Right. And then I know again at 2 o'clock I can check in, and then at 4:30 most all the agents want some sort of summary at the end of the day, because they're wondering what happened. They were out in the afternoon, they don't know what went on, and so one of the biggest pieces around this communication and level of detail that we're talking about is about building trust. And in the beginning of this relationship, trust is so important, and that comes from expectations. Then you teach someone how to do it, which means you show them, then you let them try. You are accepting when they make a mistake, even when it has consequences that cost money, because there is no other way to learn. They have to go through that process, and then you give feedback, praise for things they do well so they know what to repeat, and corrective feedback so that they know what to change so they don't get into a bad habit not even knowing that it was a bad habit. Because no feedback is not feedback. The silent treatment is the worst for the relationship.
So how, Jolene, you want to add to that?
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, not add to that, but I just want to remind everybody, up in the top right-hand corner, if you have a question, there's I think it's the little question circle. You can actually ask your question. You can ask Kathleen or I. And I know that Scott is monitoring that. I'm getting used to this. So I know Scott's monitoring the questions, so I'm sure he will ask everybody's questions. So turn it back over to you, Scott.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, just click that Q&A and ask your question, and we'll get it answered for you. So I was going to jump back in.
Sure.
So giving the tasks, how important is it that, and I've seen this, so that's why I'm asking this, is the agent doesn't overload them and then just disappear.
Yes, that is generally what happens. Like Kathleen was saying, we cannot assume that they understand how to represent, that an assistant understands how to represent us with the public and all the information that you give them the task and say, go do this. Well, they need more information. Like I said earlier, they're not going to throw it against the wall and try it. They're going to question, they're going to ask the details of it. They're going to need more information about certain things that you need. It is key to be in communication. Key to be in communication, because like Kathleen said, the communication generates the trust, and the trust factor, as it's building, is going to grease the wheel to be more effective later on. That's how great assistants, that's how great back office people become your right arm, because you're trusted and that communication and that relationship has been built.
Right. So,
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, go ahead. Please.
Yeah.
So when Jolene and I were preparing for this, we also talked about what happens when things go squirrely. That's my favorite expression for it, because there's a lot riding on the success first few weeks, and things can go squirrely quickly. And there are three elements. One is overwhelm. That is the number one squirrely factor. The second is a lack of feedback or only critical feedback.
Yeah.
And the third is not knowing the deadlines, where people don't know, I didn't know you needed that by 2 o'clock. I didn't know you needed that before you walked out the door. I didn't know how to get that finished by Thursday. So those three factors become how things start to take a turn, and sometimes you can't change that spiral. Sometimes once that spiral starts to go, then my guarantee has to kick in, and I have to start all over again, and it's just a terrible thing. But the overwhelm is easy to do, because usually by the time an agent hires someone, they are so backlogged or desperate that they can't wait. It's like fresh air came in for the first time, and they want to give them everything that they've been thinking about. And I totally understand, as a business owner myself, I've done it. And thank goodness I've had people on my team that say, okay, I can't do 4 years of marketing projects that I'm here. But that's where having some sort of agenda, some sort of checklist with your assistant, checking in 3 times a day, that's sort of the stopgap to overwhelm.
Right. And Scott, also, Kathleen talked about this, about the overwhelm. They're overwhelmed with gathering information or getting information. And what I see happen, a lot of times is the agent or the person will actually either micromanage them, so they'll just really micromanage them, or they'll let them go. So neither one of those is going to be effective. So it's like you got to slow down and pace yourself, and that's why having a great checklist works. And then there's, in our notes, the currency of appreciation. As owners of businesses and as agents, we have a different currency of appreciation. It's about, the stroking the ego, the attaboy, the money. It's the acknowledgement, the public acknowledgement. But for a lot of back office people, it's not always about the money, and it's not always about the public accolades. Understanding what the appreciation is, and like Kathleen was saying, you know, it's important to make sure that you give them the feedback, both good and not so good. So the not so good, we tend to do all of that because that's top of mind. But I would suggest that you really look too to see what's good about what they're doing, because they are doing good things. You just have to look, and it's that natural thing. You have to really look for it and then acknowledge it, not just go, well, that's their job. The thing is if you can tap into that just a little bit of appreciation, even if it's just a, hey, thanks for getting that to me before that deadline, it helped when I was out with that client, that fills up the appreciation tank. And back office people run on a tank. And if you're continually taking out of the tank by criticizing or saying, you know, or the eye roll or the, you know, frustration sounds, things like that, it's going to take stuff out of the tank. So you have to continue to put more in the tank of a thank you or a, okay, we've almost got it here. Okay, we like this, this, and this about this project, but let's redirect here. So even that is a tank filler, so that they understand how to get the appreciation and how to support them, because that's what we do. We love it when we're supporting our people and we're supporting, you know, the people that have hired us to do what we do best. The coolest thing is to see them going out and doing something that they couldn't have done if we weren't there.
Right. How important is it when you're talking about time efficiency too? And I see this happen a lot, is that when you don't have the checklists and the communication, and this goes back to what you're just saying, communicating the appreciation. If you're doing like going through a daily report with them, at the end of the day, you can go over all the things they accomplished.
Yeah.
This is all this stuff is great, and then you can go over the things that maybe they need to work on, and it kind of gives you that positioning, and that again goes back to how well you communicate. And on top of that, if you communicate from the beginning with checklists and systems, how much time is that going to save the owner in the long run when they're not having to be reactive the whole time?
Huge, huge. But the natural state of a real estate agent or an owner is really going to be that quick start, moving from thing to thing to thing, and saying, oh yeah, by the way, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. You know, the more you can help the person understand how you work and communicate with them, the more they can catch those things. But there's only so many things they can catch in a day. And you know, there's different systems that we suggest for managing all those different ideas. I mean, you know Frank, you know, he's got tons of ideas, right? Can you imagine what his assistant is like trying to capture all those ideas and keep up with him while she's doing her job? You know?
Well, that's me too, basically.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. The nature of a creative person.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta reel them in, like a tornado.
Well, you know what? I wouldn't say reel them in, but you set up ways to capture the information and then set the priorities and come back. A lot of times what happens with creative personalities is great ideas, idea machines. I want to implement this marketing system. I want to implement this. The problem is there's no place to capture it. So if you capture it and the agent knows that you've captured it and that you'll bring it back to them, then there's a trust there. Like you're not letting stuff drop off the table, like a marketing program. Okay, I have this great idea. I want to implement this marketing program to these people, these people, and these people. Okay, you're saying it on the fly. The assistant is going, oh my gosh, when are we going to do that? Okay, let me write it down, because I don't have time to do it for today. I'll come back to him later on tonight, or later on before I go, and say, how much of a priority is this? And then you go, oh no, I was just thinking off the top of my head. Okay, so you see what I'm talking about, where you can really get your priorities mixed up. But there's also a situation where that particular marketing program, you know that person's going to come back to you and say, how about this marketing program? Great, I'm glad you captured that because I didn't want to forget it. So there's another way that the assistants can help.
Well, and I think that's the balance. That speaks to what you were talking about earlier, which is the different personality styles. And so I like the analogy of the kite and the rock, and I hope that's not offensive to any of those creative people to be referred to as a kite, but it's just a useful old expression that when you have a creative person who's tethered and grounded by the assistant who's taking notes and keeping track of that, it's a fabulous combination because the assistant thinks differently. They think in terms of process, deadline, who's involved, how am I going to get this done, how does it fit into the other priorities, and the creative person doesn't go there, at least not initially, which is why the great idea sometimes doesn't happen. Right. So it is a wonderful combination of sorts, and I think some bosses, some supervisors, some business owners, and certainly some real estate agents don't even know or have not even imagined what they can accomplish with that kind of relationship, that really the productivity and the ability to innovate is unlimited with that kind of symbiotic, is that the right word, for that kind of relationship where there's a give and take like that.
Right. Exactly.
So how important is it, and you touched a little bit on micromanaging earlier, but how important is it that, because I know with all agents we talk, they're always afraid of hiring an assistant because they feel like they can do everything better themselves, and they're afraid to like let go of certain things, and then they end up micromanaging like you're talking about. So, how important is it not doing that and really building that trust level? Talk about that a little bit more.
How important? It's very, very important. You hired them to do a job, and you hired them because you were confident that they could do the job. If you're checking in with them every 5 minutes to find out if they did this or did this or did this, that's a huge interruption. Let them get on a roll and set timelines and set expectations of when something needs to be done. The other part of that, too, is understanding that, how often do we get into a project and we go, oh, that'll take me 5 minutes to get into it. An hour and a half later, we're still working on the same project. We think things take 5 minutes, and they don't. And so it's asking, and being able to come back to your assistant or come back to that person and say, hey, how long do you think this is going to take you? And then being realistic about the time so that you're not peppering them and saying, is it done yet? Is it done yet? Why wasn't this done yet? And that's really hard because nobody is going to be harder on themselves than a back office assistant, because every single time they don't perform or they don't deliver, they're taking a hit on their confidence and their self-esteem too. Now, yes, we are a little slower, we are a little bit more methodical, so yes, we can speed up, but again, it's expectations and communication.
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback on feedback. Can I piggyback on that too? Yeah. When an agent gives an assignment, so this is where teaching and training and the communication comes back, that starts to build the trust so that they don't feel like they have to micromanage, at least not for long. Right. It's a little okay to micromanage in the beginning, but just to the extent where you need more communication, you need more evidence, because I think there are a lot of agents that hire hoping and wishing that it's a successful hire. I think a lot of times they're not really sure, and we all do our best to evaluate and vet a candidate to make sure that it's a good match, but I think a lot of times that the agent is really not sure of their own choices.
Right.
Therefore, they're allowed to be a little bit paranoid about whether or not they made the right decision. So if they will show someone how to do something, check back with me before you execute it. Okay, now go execute it. Now check back with me. So that's where you delegate to give responsibility, but you keep the authority in terms of taking certain action or making certain decisions. Then once you have enough evidence that they've written the email the way you like it, or they have handled a situation when you ask them, okay, so how would you handle this? Tell me what you would say to the client. Or when you call the title company, who's not returning your phone calls, how are you going to get through? What are you going to say to them? So you role play with them a little bit and then say, okay, go make the call. And then you can hear them because hopefully they're nearby. Once you start to gather that kind of evidence, then you can realize, all right, this is good. And so then you start to build and do that with the next task, and so that's how agents can begin, to sort of back away from needing to control everything, but they're allowed to gather evidence.
Mm-hmm.
And And talk to me a little bit about, I know when you first make a hire, and we talked about it takes a little longer, the personality type, maybe some things will take a little longer. I mean, as long as you understand that from the beginning, once they learn those systems, I mean, they're going to speed up, right? So being patient at the beginning is really important, right?
Big time. Big time. But you know what? Patience is not generally a salesperson's MO. Come on, right? Yeah. I want it now, I want it now, I want it now. And I want you to learn this now and learn this now and learn this now. So, and you're going to, the patience is huge, huge.
So what do you do to, as a personality type that's very sales, I want this now, what do you do to help combat those feelings you're getting of the impatience, essentially?
Well, in my way of my suggestion would be that you slow down, but ask the question: what do you need from me to do to get to? What do you need from me? And then also get feedback. Have regular times like those Monday stand-up meetings or those daily stand-up meetings, and get feedback. Does it work for you? And there's definitely questions you can ask of the assistant. It is communication. It's about making sure that that is going well, that they do understand your personality style too.
Okay. So
Kathleen, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that we hear the expression, I want my assistant to hit the ground running. And for some people, it is possible. There are some hires who have transferable skills. They've been in property management. They've been in title, mortgage, banking, so they know different aspects of the process. Maybe they've worked in real estate but in a different capacity. And so in order for anyone, even who's had the exact same job in another place, to hit the ground running, the first thing is that they have to have clear expectations of what you want. The second is that you actually give them direction and training in increments. And the third is that you give feedback, which primarily includes praise for things they do well, so that that's what they'll repeat. I looked up the definition of orientation, which is the process of giving people training and information about a new job, a new situation, a new skill. So you have to give information. And I have an example about feedback that I teach people, which is feedback is like an Oreo cookie. You have the cookie where you give praise. And then you have the creamy center, which is sometimes a little gooey depending on what's going on, and that's the corrective feedback. And then the other side of the cookie is that you express your confidence in them to do the behavior that you've just asked them to do. Because it is about behaviors and skills, it's not about the person. And so that balance of giving praise for, I like the way you handled that phone call. I really appreciate that you, gave that checklist, a thorough going over before our meeting at 11:30 this morning, and you came prepared with questions. That kind of specific information where you give that to the assistant makes them know, oh, okay, so I should do that every day. And when you do explain something, I had this happen with a client recently. He wasn't sure that his assistant really understood the direction he had been giving. And so when he asked, so do you understand that? They would just say yes. And he didn't really believe that. And so I said, it's okay to clarify and say, all right, now explain back to me, what did I just tell you? Tell me how you were going to handle that, so give me that information. So it's all right to ask that question, to once again gather evidence and sort of have them prove that they really do understand. And then when they check in and you can see what they've done, you once again can begin to feel more confident, like, all right, I have effectively communicated, they did really get it, and they are really doing it. And so all of that starts to play into that.
All right, so let's talk about the signs that you need to be looking for as the business owner that this person may not be a good fit. So what are the things that you're kind of looking for in that first week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? And I'm not talking about big ones. Obviously, you show up in the middle of the day, like obviously that person's not going to work out, right? But the little things that you're looking for to really know if this person's going to be a good fit for this position.
Well, hopefully we've done a good job of vetting people out, and that you've done a good job of vetting people out and checking their skills and whatnot. But, there are people who do really good interviews, and they don't have the substance behind it. And that's our job to make sure that we get to that. There are times when there are just character issues. Listen to the tone of voice. Listen to, I don't want to say pushback, but listen to them, how they're dealing with people on the phone. Are they representing you? Are they, I'm just thinking of examples. Are they representing you? I know I had somebody who represented me on calling Dell on a computer issue. I can tell you right now that person will never represent me again because of the tone of voice and how condescending they were to that person, which is not how I would be. There's the little things that will show up under stress. Check their work. When you're checking their work, are they doing, when you redirect and say, no, do it this way, or no, I suggest you do it this way, are they catching on to that, or are they still doing it their way? And if they're doing it their way, ask them, are you doing it your way, or is there an issue that you have with, doing it my way here? And you kind of get a sense of the pushback. And also whether they're listening to you. How are their listening skills? Are they listening to you? Are they listening to what's happening? And are they seeing what is coming up front, or are they waiting for you to tell them what to do? So those are just a few keys that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, I have something.
Kathleen,
I want to refer to Ken Blanchard, which is Ken's 1 Minute Manager to Work. And so I actually found this passage in case we wanted to talk about this, which is determining when you come up against corrective feedback, like when is it a training issue and when is it an attitude and when is it really a problem? Because sometimes lack of performance is a lack of understanding, and sometimes lack of performance is about attitude, which is harder. But it says when someone can't do something, you go back to goal setting. So do they understand the deadline? Do they understand the process? And so then you can clarify that. If they won't do something because you've given them direction, you've given corrective feedback, and it's still not happening, then it actually turns into a reprimand instead of a correction, which then becomes a warning, and so then we sort of go down the human resources path of this isn't working out because that's an attitude problem. And so there's more information in here about how to follow through on that. But those are the management techniques of picking up on whatever direction you're giving that isn't happening. The first thing the agent or the manager needs to look at is, what's my part? What do I need to do to help that? And then once you've done your part and you still don't have performance, now we're into either they can't do it or they won't do it.
Right. And Scott, one of the things I'm excited about is our next, Kathleen and I have planned for our next call already, our next Hangout. And that's going to go into one of the things we're going to cover is it time to let this person or move on, or is it time to retrain, or do we need to really get stronger in the conversation? So we may be covering like the first 30 days here, but we're going to be covering the second half of that 90 days in our next Google Hangout next month. So we're real excited about bringing that to you because it is a process. There's a lot of moving parts in that. And reality is there could be a point when you go, I don't think this is going to work. As good as hires as we can make, there are times when it's just, was it the term fish or cut bait or whatever that is? But it's, time to go, okay, this isn't going to work. And like you said, what are those signs? And what are the conversations to have, number one, and also to protect yourself in, the human resources issues, and also to make sure that this isn't just a retraining or a redirection or a communication issue. So that's one of the conversations we're going to have next time.
Nice. So to finish up this 30-day block, okay. Where should the assistant or the new hire kind of be at the end of 30 days as far as all the training and systems and checklists and things that you've put in place for them?
Good question. So I think one of the first things is you got to determine that ahead of time and say, okay, this is what I want you to learn. Then also have that review and say, okay, we're 80% here on this software program. I need you to do this, this, and this. you should start to be feeling like they're starting to take responsibility for the mistakes they've made or for some of the redirection. They're going to make mistakes the first 30 days. They're going to not know what's going on and be, they're just going to make mistakes. Be aware of it. Be patient about it. Don't take it personally. They're going to turn that corner and start catching the mistakes before they're made. Mm-hmm. That's where they should be. They should start catching it before and saying, oh, you know what, you're absolutely right, I should have done this, this, and this, before you say it. That's one of the milestones that they can reach, and it's one that's a very subtle one as they turn the corner to really taking ownership of their job, which is really down. That's when they become like Jack Welch's assistant, where she runs the man. It's not just him. It's a great assistant will know what they need ahead of time before you even know you need it. But it takes time to get there. But the first stage really is knowing and taking accountability for the mistakes.
Anything to add with that, Kathleen?
Yeah, I just talked to an assistant today who just finished her 4th week of her orientation, and I know both Jolene and I, when we work with people as a mentor and a consultant in the 12-week orientation, that I see that they are proficient at basic tasks, and the assistant feels confident that I know how to check email, give messages, I know how to go through checklists for deals, I know how to fulfill these forms, and they know in the basic tasks that they have turned a corner and that they are ready to not only continue to do those tasks, but now they're not afraid to take on more volume and or more projects and get involved more in hopefully being able to anticipate what their agent needs. They all want to be able to do that, but they're still, catching up with all the things that are put on their plate. But I too see that that's a big shift. If they've gotten good feedback and good direction in the first 30 days, they turn that corner and say, okay, now they're ready to take on even more.
Right.
Okay, so I have 2 questions left. All right.
Are they hard?
No, they're good. They're good. So first question is, and it's cute how you had this in the email, but bonus question. It's almost the holidays. Obviously, you're getting a lot of this, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Should I just wait or make a hire now?
Okay, we can probably unanimously, both Kathleen and I were laughing about this. No, do not wait. Do not wait. What's going to happen, it's going to take 3-4 weeks to process that, to get this person hired. 3-4 weeks from now is Christmas. What is it, the 13th of November right now? Right. Okay, we're going to be rolling right into Christmas. If you don't get started on the hiring process now, you're going to be in January 1 starting it. So, and then you're not going to get somebody hired until, February. It's just not going to happen. So you're already a month behind in your business plan. So why not get that person hired? I mean, it's kind of like the real estate business. They say, oh, nobody's buying houses during the holidays. Nobody's buying houses, when there's a big holiday going on. I bought a house on Easter Sunday, and I also bought a house on New Year's Eve. You know what? I bought houses, and I also know I'm running ads right now for people, and there's a lot of people who are looking for positions and making changes. So don't wait. It's just going to set your business plan, back a month or 2. And there are great people available now. There are people who are looking for positions.
Yeah, I would agree. I have had searches fulfilled in 4 weeks, but it is the minority. The national average is 7 weeks from ad to hire. My average tends to be more to 12 weeks. It's 90 days by the time you advertise, by the time they are phone screened and vetted, by the time the agents take the time out of their schedule to interview, references are done, an offer is made, and then they give 2 weeks notice. Before you know it, it's 9 to 12 weeks.
Yeah, and so right now, Scott, if we place an ad for you today, your person would start on January 1st or January 15th.
Wow.
More than likely.
And it's really quite perfect because my experience of candidates over the holidays is they actually may have time to look for a job. things have slowed down where they are. They're on vacation, and so they're looking for a new job. They're available to interview, and so they're fine with starting January 15th or even February 1st, but they want to know that there's an opportunity. They will even accept an offer with a delayed start date because they were happy just to be able to know that when the holidays were finished, they had something new they were going to start the new year in.
Yeah.
And another point to that, too, is, you know, the 2 weeks around Christmas and New Year's, it tends to be a lot quieter around the office. So if you have them starting the middle of December and going into the end of the year, it's almost like a buffer zone where you get to know each other, too. So there's really no bad time to hire. So I say don't wait. So bonus question, don't wait.
All right, last question I have is, you both are very, very knowledgeable. Are you guys planning on working together or doing anything together? Because it seems like you have a really good communication and connection here.
Yeah, I'm beginning to feel like we're like the dynamic duo here. You know, we're both really excited. As a matter of fact, I'm glad you asked that question because we are going to be collaborating together, and the key word is collaboration. We both have great skills. Some of them overlap, but then we also bring other skills to the party that are different from each other. But together we really have figured out, oh my gosh, we have something here. So we're excited to be launching something, a new package, a new program for assistance, for retention, for leadership and management skills for the agent. We're going to be launching that at around January, somewhere in January. So we're keying up. We're looking, we're looking to do that. So thank you for asking. So, and what I would put out to people too is if you're interested in getting on our priority list or being, you know, on the list to make sure that you get that information about what we're rolling out, you know, we have. I don't have the phone number up yet, but I can give that to you in just a minute, the information on contacting us.
Great. So we'll make a post on this Google Plus page. That way people have that information to contact you and if they want to learn more about what you guys are planning.
Yeah, so we're really excited. So I'll just say it, if people are taking notes, they can contact us either way at info@systemsuccess.com. That's systems, plural, success.com, or 1-844-447-4641, and that's 1-844-HIRING-1. So either way, you'll get a hold of us, and we are really excited to. There's just a connection there where we, like I said, we have a passion for helping people get what they need. So.
Awesome. Well,
anything
ladies,
to add, Kathleen?
Kathleen, anything to add before we go?
Oh, I think it's a great combination of the things that we bring to our audience, and I too am really excited to work with Jolene on hiring and retaining experienced and professional administrative people in the real estate industry with all the different things that we've had in our own careers. It's just really going to be a winning match.
Yep, definitely. Can't wait to bring it out because I know it's going to make a huge difference.
All right, and then Jolene, repeat again what to expect for next month and the next Hangout we're doing.
For next month, it's about turning the corner towards that 90 days. We'll be talking about, how to know whether you need to move on or how to retrain or some of those gaps, how to fill in the gaps of the 90 days. And then we're also going to be talking about evaluations, how to use them, when to use them, should you use them, what formats, some of the really key questions, the talking points of the evaluations, things like that. So those are some of the topics that we'll be covering, which could probably take a couple hours, but we're not going to do that.
All right. Well, we're going to sign off here. I want to thank you both. This was amazing information, and we're going to be sending out a replay for everyone to view at a later time as well. So thank you, and we'll see everyone next month.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Kathleen.
Thank you.
Bye.